Hi everybody, my name is Caitlin Lee. I am a student at Midwestern State University here in Texas. This course is called Multimedia Development and this presentation is in collaboration with it. Today I will be walking you through the art of sourdough. Imagine taking 3 simple ingredients, salt, water, and flour, and turning it into a beautiful and tasty loaf of bread. I will walk you through each step from perfecting your starter to cutting your first slice. What is sourdough? Sourdough is a type of bread that is made using a sourdough starter rather than commercial yeast. The wild yeast and natural bacteria in the starter cause the bread to rise and give it the soury taste. The benefits of sourdough are that it's more nutritious than your typical white bread that you would buy from the grocery store, and it is easier to digest. The long fermentation process breaks down some of the gluten and starches, making it gentler on your digestive system. So it is a lot easier to digest. The process is very long. If say you start mixing the bread at 8 a.m. in the morning, you wouldn't typically bake the bread until the next day. Fun fact, sourdough is the oldest form of leavened bread, dating back over 5,000 years to ancient Egypt. Each sourdough starter is unique because of the wild yeast and bacteria that come from the environment. So say a starter that was made in Idaho would taste different than a starter from Texas. A sourdough starter consists of 2 simple ingredients, which are flour and water. To create a sourdough starter, you can mix equal parts flour and water together in a jar. Put the lid on the jar and let it sit on the counter for 24 hours. After 24 hours, you will discard half the mixture and then feed it. To feed your sourdough starter, you're going to add equal parts water and flour. You will repeat this process until your sourdough starter is established, and this could take anywhere from like 1 to 2 weeks and even sometimes longer. You know when your sourdough starter is ready to use when it is doubling in size within 12 hours of feeding it. Now this can seem pretty intimidating. It's an intimidating process, so there is an easier way to go about this. You can just go to the store or find someone who's a local baker, or even go online and order your own sourdough starter. And it normally will come in a little packaging of dehydrated sourdough starter, which is just like dried starter. And also another thing to note is that when you are feeding your starter every single day, you can use that discard that you can save that discard that you are discarding, put it in a jar in the fridge, and then use that as a staple for your other recipes. Something that I really like to make with it is pizza dough. It's really easy and nutritious. Now let's jump right in. To bake your first loaf, you're going to need a kitchen scale, mixing bowl, tea towels, plastic wrap, bread lame, scissors, or Dutch oven. This would be a bread lame right here. It's not necessary, but it does make it easier to score your bread. Or you could use scissors or a knife, anything that's sharp. This is a bread banneton. You can use this or a mixing bowl and a tea towel that's inside of it and very lightly floured to hold your bread in. The ingredients that you will need are 350 grams of room temperature filtered water, 100 grams of active starter, 12 grams of salt, and 500 grams of bread flour. And I say grams because you'll be using a kitchen scale, or I recommend using that because it gives you way more accurate reading. So the first step is to mix it. In a large mixing bowl, use a kitchen scale, mix starter and water it very well. It will look like a thin bubbly soup. Add salt and mix again. Add the flour last and use your hands and mix it until it looks like a shaggy dough, and then you will cover it and let it rest for 30 minutes. After your dough has rested, you will need to perform 3 sets of stretch and folds within every 30 minutes. Stretch and folds are crucial in strengthening the gluten. Here is a video on how to do stretch and folds. You will do them using this technique. So stretch and fold are very crucial in the process. It helps make the bread stronger and hold its shape and rise better when it's baking. So after you've done 3 sets of stretch and fold, you're going to cover it and let it double in size. And it normally takes about 4 to 5 hours depending on the temperature of your house. So if your house is colder, it will take longer to double, to rise. And a tip to remedy this is to turn on your oven for just a few minutes. You want the ideal temp to be like 75 for rising. So turn on your oven and then turn it off. Keep the oven light on and put your dough in there, but make sure the oven is off. I have made the mistake of not doing so, and it was a mess. So that will help you make the dough rise faster. It's very important that it rises within those like 4 to 5 hours, maybe a little bit longer, but you can overproof it and it will not turn out as great. So once your dough has doubled in size, we are going to shape it. Dump it out onto a floured surface and shape it. To shape your dough, you can use a candy cane motion, which is dragging the ball of dough into the shape of a candy cane a few times. You can either put the dough back in the bowl and cover it with a towel, or leave it on the surface you use to shape it, and leave it for 30 minutes. After your dough has rested for 30 minutes, stretch it back out onto the flour surface and reshape it. So you're just going to repeat that candy cane motion. You're going to put your dough in a lightly floured banneton, which is this. And then, or you could use a mixing bowl with a tea towel covered in it and lightly floured. And then this can stay into the fridge for a couple of days if needed, but ideally you would just leave it in your fridge overnight. Scoring your bread. So this is good. You'll use you'll score your bread. It allows for expansion so it doesn't just burst and look all funky. And these are a bunch of cool designs you could do, or you could just do one straight down the middle. And now it is time to bake. So you will need to take your dough out of the fridge at least 1 hour before baking. You're going to preheat your empty Dutch oven at 500. And then once it's preheated, you're going to take it out, lower the oven to 450 Fahrenheit, and then you're going to transfer the dough to parchment paper and add it into the Dutch oven, put the lid on, and put it back into the oven. Make sure it's at 450. And you're going to bake it for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, you're going to want to take it out of the oven, remove the lid, and then put the Dutch oven back into the oven with the lid off at 400. And you're going to bake it for another 15 minutes. The internal temp should be 205 once it's baked, so make sure that you've got the right temperature. And then after all that, you're going to let it cool for at least 2 hours before cutting into it. Once the bread is cut, you can store it in an airtight container up to like 3 to 5 days. It doesn't stay good for very long just because it is homemade. And sourdough is not just about baking bread, it's about slowing down and learning how to work with nature. Whether your first loaf turns out beautifully or quirky, every loaf brings you closer to mastering the art of sourdough. Do you have any questions?